Welcome to Gnostic Warrior Radio Show and Podcast, broadcasting from GnosticWarrior.com in San Diego, California, to around the world. Today on the other line we have John Kale from the CosmicGnostic.com. John currently resides in Charleston, South Carolina, and began his online journey in 2004, and it has been morphing ever since that date. He is regularly putting out news every day on the rabbit hole, he calls it, and he's also putting out his own philosophies and being an original artist and Gnostic, which I love. And I've been following John for a couple of years now, and it's great to finally have him on the other line. How you doing today, John?
Hey, Mo. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, definitely. And let me also let the audience know that John was on my show about 2 weeks ago, and we recorded an hour show, and it went really great. And me being an amateur, for some reason the recording didn't take, and that whole hour we had somehow missed. And so I'm going to make sure, and I've made sure, that each show that I record, it is recording throughout the show, and I check my software to make sure it's doing that. So, hey, John, I appreciate you coming on again and taking your time to do that.
Yeah, it's no problem. These sort of things happen from time to time, for sure. And so you just got to keep trying to do this.
Yeah, definitely. And someone like yourself, who, of course, has been blogging for so long, and then your podcast, which I had mentioned before, you were somewhat of an inspiration to me, because there's several people that I've watched over the last year or 2 years thinking about doing this, and you were one of the guys that were doing it. And I liked what you were saying and your philosophies. And actually, that last hour that I spent with you, John, it was really cool, and I really got to know you more as a person. And it's funny, and you get to do these in these shows and meet cool people, and that's one of the things that we had talked about. And you've been podcasting for how long now?
Well, the actual podcast itself has been going on since 2008, but the website itself has been going since 2004. And yeah, it's just it's an endeavor in itself, part of my own growing process, and it's a humble personal experience, but it's definitely important to reach out and to have conversations with other people that you can understand from one another where you're coming from. And so when I started this, that was kind of like one of the endeavors behind this, was to basically have a platform where I could be able to reach out and essentially find the others, because what I have found in my own process in all of this is that you find yourself kind of surrounded by people that are not interested in these kind of topics. And so what I've found is that there is an importance to find other people out there in this world, and to reach out and to have conversations and to learn from. This is where I gain my gnosis. And this reality, this world, is just full of knowledge, isn't it? It's just it's vast, full of knowledge, where you can spend vast lifetimes just trying to go through all the knowledge that is there, to be able to dig through it all and to take it in, And so, I think that we're living in a great time of technology where I'm able to talk to Mo across the country to discuss these things, or to talk to somebody else that's in another country around the world. So it's been a great thing for my own knowledge, for my own selfish knowledge.
No, I agree with you, John, and just with me reaching out to you, you're someone that I've followed for some time now, like I had said, for the last, say, year and a half, and then I've listened to, quite a number of your podcasts of the people that I was really interested into that you got to talk to on your podcast, and it's cool to seek out and reach out to people such as yourself or myself, and people that are really interested in the same things. Because like you said, there's a crowd out there that's interested in the truth, and I think that's what you were saying, but a lot of it is just that disinformation, that fear, that BS, but no one's kind of doing their own individual Gnostic kind of trip. And what you really said in the last conversation that struck a chord to me is you basically, you wake up every day and you think of life as art, and you're the artist going through it, and you're really doing that with your website, and you do that with your work as well. You're a graphic designer, and you own your own company, correct?
Yeah, well, for a living, I'm a freelance designer. Dream Lab Creative Design is the name of the company that I run. But it's like you're saying, this is like a sort of a dream in itself, a labyrinth of itself. My own kind of experience going through this, going door to door, trying to find the next door to go into this, the answers through this this vast, whatever you want to call this, reality, this matrix. And so what I felt in the beginning of doing this was that I am John, and John is going to have his own kind of flavor in all of this. And it's the same for each and every individual that is out there. We all have our own paths that we all follow in this. Well, with me, I felt that, like, as I've gone along in my paths, as I've learned that, spreading that knowledge was sort of essential along the way. So while I, yes, was learning from other people and other websites, that are out there, I felt that, it was an important kind of thing to start to throw my own thing together. It's a sort of kind of endeavor to try to draw together my own sanity, to try to make sense of all this. But at the same time, it's just to put out there humbly for anybody else that wants to stumble upon it, to dig through it, and to hopefully gain something from it, And so it's been one of these kind of things where, like, I don't really try to I don't try to put too much emphasis into it. I just try to do it and let it be a life of its own. And so all these years later, it's become what it is, And so I just keep doing it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun for me, and at the same time, it's been great to meet other people.
Yeah, I agree, John, and like you said, you're an artist, and it's important, if you're an artist, of course, that you create, and that, I feel, satisfies our soul. And this is almost like a new way for people such as yourself and myself, and of course there's a lot of people out there that are doing similar things, is to create light and art, and it's kind of our own little trip. And what I see with you, John, is you're real original, and everything you do, everything you say, your podcast, and pretty much, I know you only could be so original in this cookie cutter world, that we gotta fit into, but you're doing the best you can, and I like that about you, that you're original and you're an artist, and to the people out there, creating is really important, I feel, to our soul and to being happy. Do you agree with that, John?
Yeah, it's definitely the central core of me, being an artist. See, like, a lot of people, they try to be an artist when they just get to the canvas, whereas I try to be an artist 100% of the time of my life. It's a creative effort all day, always, with everything that I touch. And it's not just trying to be creative. It's a process of just trying to understand this reality at the same time. it's meditation, being alive meditation, like it's a focus where I've tried to mix art and meditation and life and light all together in one. And so it is my own, like, my own flavor, but we're in a world where there's so many other people out there. I mean, we're so fortunate that we're able to, like, reach out and touch, each other's, like, knowledge and, like, gain from one another, And so I feel very fortunate in this time. It's not been easy. It's not been it's been a roller coaster, of course, especially over the past decade. This has been an era of terror and an era of terra, which is love. And so I feel that there's a lot of things going on in this world. And as a person that is, I'm a mystic. I just came into this world sort of like automatically mystified by this reality. Like I was already like just questioning things as soon as I popped out in this world. Even when I was a child, a small little boy, I remember like questioning the veils of this reality. And I don't think that's normal, but I don't know. I'm just trying to play along and ride this as I can and do this as natural as I can, because we're living in this reality that is it doesn't want you to find yourself. It wants you to be as far away from your true self as possible. And I feel like that if anything that I can offer the world out there is almost the same exact message that even the ancients were trying to say, which is define your true self, define thyself. Because once you do that, it's just like this flood of life comes through you. Like you found yourself. You're like, holy crap, there you are. There's John. Now I can like go on and be me and do the things that I want to in this world. But there's a reality out there that tries to prevent that. It's like this big maze, really, that we as human beings are all in. And so, like, what I'm trying to do with Cosmic Gnostic is at least try to say, hey, there are lights at the end of our tunnels here that we can all each go towards.
Definitely, and you had said, basically this world, it kind of, what I gather, it wants to make us cookie cutter, make us all the, yes ma'am, no ma'am, follow this kind of cookie cutter sheeple mentality. And what you're saying is you don't have to, you could break out of that, and that's what you've done, and I feel that I've done myself, because, even though I was asking questions, I somewhat was mind controlled, I feel, by the system. But after time of asking these questions, which I feel is very important, that you had mentioned as a young kid, and you never stop asking questions, even till the day you die, and always verify and, all that stuff. But breaking out of that cookie cutter, whatever you want to call it, Illuminati, slave controlled system, and being original, and that you could do that, and we all could do that. And that's what you're hoping to do with people out there, and spreading the knowledge. And what I gather also from you, John, which I think is cool, is that you see the world that there's good and bad, and there's bad and good. You see the love, and then you see the hate, but you try to get through the hate to the love, and try to live in this wonderful world, because it is still a beautiful world, even though there's a lot of terror and hate. Do you agree?
Yeah. It tries to veil your eyes from even seeing that light, to seeing that love. And I mean, that was kind of early on for me. Like I was seeing things in my life like misery coming towards me, and early on I was I guess it was that ego jumping in, saying you got to find a way to survive this. And I know a lot of people put down the ego in a lot of times in these discussions, but I actually think that the ego has a good purpose in some of this, especially in these times when we have to sort of like survive this, as a soul, as an energy. Like, I don't know what exactly we are per se. I like to think of us as energy. And we're trying to move around in this kind of like this this chaotic river of life, and there's all sorts of different types of energies that are flowing around everywhere around us, and we're a part of that, and we're a part of that energy. And once we understand our own energy, knowing ourselves, know thyself, it's when you start to be able to see the world as it truly is. The veils start to lift in your own apocalypse, You start to become aware of things. And when you become aware of these things, you start to see the world differently. And the world just becomes more realistic to you. That's the whole thing about this. There's a lot of delusional type of people out there living in a delusional world, where I strive personally to try to cut through this matrix, this labyrinth of reality, to peel it back and to stick my head in to see what's really there, to see it for what it really is. And it's not a gentle journey, though. It is a journey that it can be very painful, but light and love aren't necessary things that are just feel-good energies. These are things that are very important to myself, and so I've understood that pain is a very big part of this, like darkness and all that, So I'm willing to go into the darkness to look for the light, We have to bring the light to the darkness. It's not going to go the other way around. And we live in this kind of reality where it's almost kind of like the darkness has been let to take over and for its own well-intended purposes, because I see purpose behind all this as well. But yeah, it's a yin-yang world kind of out there. I see the love and light of all this, and I strive for the love. But there's a lot of evil out there. There's a lot of hate. There's that demiurge kind of Archon control system that is right before us. And we're all brainwashed. We're all a part of it. We're all enslaved and chained down to this thing, And so, when early on, especially after 9/11, when all that started opening up over this past decade or whatever, I feel like it was right to start to expose some of this stuff, to try to shine the light in that direction, so that the stuff, when it comes out, it's going to be chaos and crazy, and you're going to see a lot of evil and bad. But at the end of the day, when everybody understands the darkness, then it turns around to where that negative stuff will turn around to be something positive. Well, at least that's the hope.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's what's interesting to me, and I think you were alluding to that a little bit earlier, is how people such as yourself, being, John Kale, and running the Cosmic Gnostic, with your podcast, and then of course a lot of the news that you're releasing some of this truth news that talks about these things, whether it be 9/11 or whatever, and a lot of it you call rabbit hole kind of stuff, which I agree. What's really interesting to me is that we could talk about this now, when it seems like almost the first time in history, and we're allowed to have our pedestals to do that. And I see that as blessing, because we know that there's powers that be that control us, and we know who we are. They call us citizens, but we know that's not the case. But in any event, why do you think that they're allowing this now? Why are they allowing these truths? And they still allow, of course, the chaos which prevails right now and is the rule of the day, which is the darkness and the evil and the corruption and the immoral acts. But they allow us to shine the light and the truth. Why do you think so, John?
Well, thousands of years ago, you had various Gnostics, trying to spread the truth, whether it was from word of mouth or even forming a group, of whatnot. They were always demonized and always attacked and murdered. And so, to this day, we look around and we wonder, why are we not being murdered off right now? And it's because there's probably a trick within that. They've gone thousands of years trying to understand the human psychology. They've gone, millions of years, if you really want to get deep into this, the understanding of, let's say that there is an off-world parasite entity that is literally trying to control humanity. Well, it knows humanity in and out more than anything else. It knows us, and so it's just like this. The past thousands of years has been a part of this story. Like, we want to think that, like, the past 10 years, 20 years, 15, whatever, like, once we've had the internet, seems to be like this big mecca central time in our lives, when it seems to be like the most important, when it's not. It's actually just a part of all the thousands of years that we've already experienced. And so, like, even though that they're not coming out chopping our heads off literally just yet, although that they might do that from time to time, they're still going to try to use you as a sort of useful idiot, I guess. Well, see what they do. It's very psychologically, like, intricate here. Like, they're working with something that's beyond history has ever seen. Well, I don't know if it's ever seen it, but, like, it just seems like a dangerous thing to say that they're not going to come out and kill us, because we don't know. Like, that they can flip the coin really quick in all this, and I think they even did that back then. Like, when we're talking about the Cathars or the Essenes or anything, like, I wonder if those people knew, like, on the flip of a coin, that they were going to be, like, next thing you know, like, 1 million soldiers were coming to murder them, Like, so, like, we never know what is going to happen. So it's kind of one of these things where it's just like, I say screw fear and screw death, I'm not going to, like, be afraid of it, kind of thing. And so, like, in my own personal thing is I have to have my sword, and be kind of brave in this and say, screw you, you evil people, or whatever entities or anything that are out there. I'm going to stand up, And so some of that bravery, sometimes bravery can be stupid, but, a lot of times if you just stand up to these things, they're cowards. They cower so quickly, and, like, they go away. They don't want your light. As soon as you stand up to them and, you show your sword and you're like, I am the light and I'm showing you this and I am not going to stop until I've cut through this, then the darkness reacts in a certain way. It does something to where it's like, oh crap, John knows, and so it starts to run away, But if you just keep persisting, keep persistence in the world, you're going to still remain, and it's going to be like your alchemy, your own personal alchemy grows within all this. And so, yeah, I don't doubt that one day that maybe like a soldier in all black with a machine gun might come and look for me, But I don't know. Like, it seems that that part of the game, to go out and take out your enemy in that kind of sense, is not part of the game anymore. There's like another game going on here, and so we have to I think that's what's going on. Like, there's a lot more going on here than the average person thinks, and so. For them to kill somebody, a Gnostic or somebody, it would almost help us if they did that as a martyr kind of thing. They would be kind of like people would be, oh my God, like, they just killed him, so there's got to be truth behind what he's saying. So it almost would help them if they went and did something like that. So they're not going to do that, They're not going to start disappearing people, even though they do that from time to time to make an example, Yeah,
so,
it seems like. Go ahead.
Based on what you're saying, John, and kind of my own interpretation, it's like they allow, of course, the truth and the light now, and then, of course, the darkness is still prevailing. But this is either going two ways in the future. It's either going to ugliness, where it goes on to full-on chaos, and this is just some kind of net for them, the internet, to gather all the information and intel they need to go against people, or it's the other way where they're actually allowing people such as yourself, such as myself, and many other people to spread the light, and it's a form of order in this chaos, and people could kind of pick and choose, and that's why people such as yourself are allowed to, keep blogging and telling the truth, where maybe someday nothing at all is going to happen to you, and actually they want you to do this. And the people that decide to go either way, that's almost a life or death situation. I feel like we're frogs in a pot. So instead of, it's either the guillotines and the FEMA camps and, the ovens, or it's, the frog in the pot, kill yourself by your own choice, eat that GMO food, get those vaccines, kill yourself with drinking and smoking and all that kind of thing, get cancer, which everybody's getting now. So I almost see it like it's a free will death now, where people will have a choice, to follow the light and the truth, and the powers that be are kind of allowing, like you said, this game where it kind of changed, where I feel that the change was from the guillotines to the camps, to the ovens, to the free will death choices, that we're finding this information on the internet that is controlled by them, and they're allowing it. So it's almost like those guys that figure out the matrix and, figure out to avoid those landmines and that poison, make it. And those guys that don't. I don't know, that's kind of my theory a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely, they allow it to happen because it creates more chaos and confusion. So it kind of plays in their hands as well, when they see like all this different information like flying all over the place, the average person that's just jumping into this, they're not going to know where to even begin, so they kind of like that chaos. They encourage it,
Yeah, it's almost like the strong survive, almost like in the jungle, that kind of theory. It's like, hey, if they get it, they do. If they don't, they don't. Guys like John, they do, and guys like Sam over here don't, and so mote it be. Do you believe that's how it is?
Well, there's definitely agenda behind it, though. It's psychology. It's mass control of populations, and they've been doing this for like over 100 years. And they've perfected it. And so they understand the human being in large crowds even. And so everything that you see that's going on, everything that you think that's being let loose, it's being allowed for a reason, So like my advice for anybody is like whenever you see a herd of people or ideas going in one direction, just step back for a second and watch it to see where it goes, because you might find yourself saving yourself. You might find that like the herd is going off a cliff. They're being led off a cliff. So it's a confusing reality, and it goes right into the whole Gnostic thing too. It is I have this medallion that I wear. It's made out of pewter. It's cheap metal, but it is a maze on it, and it's called the Gnostic Maze. And essentially, it has like all these scriptures and whatnot as you approach each doorway within the maze. And so I see a lot of that in this reality even now, like here and now. Like I see that a lot of people, us Gnostics, trying to peel back these layers and cut through and like get through all this to try to understand this reality as it is. And it just seems like, like we are always kind of there in this world. We're kind of the thorn in the side of this Archon or whatever, because we're always in this reality. The ones that come into this reality that speak the truth, they don't want truth seekers. They don't want people to speak anything of truthful nature, But they have to allow it because what they have found in the past, like say for instance in the early 1900s, by going out and just murdering masses of people doesn't work. You can't just go out and take your machine gun and start, clearing the land. It doesn't work that way. So what they found is that you have to psychologically take over the mind of the person and to make the person themselves want to kill themselves or to, to be used to kill other groups. So they look at things from afar. They look at us from a petri dish, and they might add in a little ingredient here and there to make us all move in this one direction or another, And so, as a person in this petri dish, as a Gnostic, I'm trying to figure out, first of all, what did they in the ancient past, what did they have to deal with? Well, I have something right here that I'd like to read that is in the Pistis Sophia, and I think this is a clear-cut message of what the message of all of this really is, and it is in the Pistis Sophia, and it says, "Do not cease seeking day or night, and do not let yourselves relax until you have found all the mysteries of the kingdom of light, which will purify you and make you into pure light and lead you into the kingdom of light." That tells me that you got to not stop looking until you found it, which can mean a lifetime of experience, It can be a lifetime. And it's just kind of one of these things. You can't stop looking. You have to always question reality because it's always changing and flowing and moving, So that's kind of where I am in all this. I'm trying to pull the ancient knowledge and then utilize it for the modern times of now,
Yeah, no, when you had said that passage right there from the Sophia, the Pistis Sophia, and then of course when you couple that with how you opened, when we first started the discussion with energy and how we're energy, and I love the saying by Albert Einstein, everything is energy and that is all there is to it. And so we have the light also saying, that it's almost like they're teaching us something here, like alchemical wise, as far as what we need to do to evolve and to ascend. Mm-hmm. And the system, the way it's set up is the opposite. It's almost to turn us upside down so we never ascend and we never go towards the light. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, it's there to try to tear us down. It wants to sever us from our source. We are direct conduits to the source of the universe. We are all, each individual person is a spark, individual spark of the source. And what this darkness is trying to do is sever that connection. So you're not connected to where you're lost in this vast universe. And that way so you will not evolve. But it's almost kind of like that in itself is part of the purpose in itself. The darkness is the nudger, to nudge us along in the evolution, It has its purpose too. I don't have to like it. My ego in this evolution wants to destroy it. It wants to, be like a warrior and fight it, But it all kind of has this sort of overall purpose, and I think it is evolution. To get us to kind of get us off our lazy butts, to get running towards the light, which is knowledge, which is love, and all these sort of things, which is growth, universal growth. So while I see, evil is not good, I see great purpose in it at the same time.
The necessary evil. That it's interesting to me that they're allowing this, and like you said, there's a purpose to this, and the kind of the chaos and the order, the ordo ab chaos. But the truth, it feels like we're moving towards that society someday. It's either the dark society where we're all completely enslaved for eternity and complete hell, or that society that Plato and the Gnostics had talked about, where it's a philosopher type of society. We're all, of course, going to have to work and contribute. That's just the way it is, in any society. But that's the goal of the rulers eventually. It's not really hell. We have to get through the darkness to get to the light. Do you believe that, or do you believe that the purpose of the Archons, the rulers, are to take us to hell, to that internal enslavement, or are they trying to take us to the light?
Well, as far as their own purpose, they themselves, they want to take us towards the darkness. They want us destroyed. Like, I look at these Archons as a parasite. Like, I don't even think of it as an intelligent being whatsoever. In my podcast, I laugh at them because, like, I see them as puny sort of entities that are so pathetic that they have to use humanity in order to make its own move, in order to make its own growth. And so, no, I think that it's striving to destroy us because it has no self-growing desire inside itself. It doesn't understand what that means. Like its own existence. It's void of life. It's void of creation. It's void of all these things, and we are creative beings. Like that's kind of part of our purpose, is to be creative in this. And I think that in this time of evolution, like this is a pinnacle point in time, like in our society. I think that what it comes down to is an evolutionary kind of point in time where we're realizing that we do not need rulers anymore. We do not need these few people that sit on top of the pyramid. What we need is a community. What we need is for all the people to work together as a community and not as a rulership structure where these people down here, they get cracked with the whip, where these people up here, they get prized. It's nothing like that. This is more like where if we can get past all this crap, all this socialism, all this communism that's embedded in this world, if we can get all that past this and get into a community of light where people were just creative and work together, where we do work and trade, there is a form of trading that can happen that is good, And so that's all a part of this, and I see this coming into fruition during these times. I think that we're in a very chaotic time for a reason. This is a special point in the universe when all this is coming into our world, new energies that we're dealing with, And so, at the same time, while these new energies are coming in, people are becoming aware. The people are having the light and gnosis coming into their well-being. People are becoming the change that they want to become in this world. And so that reaction is changing all this darkness. And so because of that, this darkness is going to start reacting even more so. It's going to start coming to us with more of the false flag operations, more of the attacks on people's rights. It's just the more and more you see this, it's because the light is being injected into the darkness. When we see all this chaos flying around, man, I see it. I see it working. I see a positive future happening here. Now, right now, there is a lot of darkness and death and evil going on, but all that is being exposed, and I'm very curious to see what the next 10 years is going to be like.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, and when you study, the powers that be, whoever they may be, it seems like they're stuck on one of the big issues for them would be the population, and that they feel there's too many of us right now. What's your thoughts on that? Have you looked into that at all? Population control, and is there too many of us making too many plastic things? Do we need to take a look at that, or what's your thoughts?
Well, Nero thought there was too many people on the planet too. He was, and that was kind of part of his agenda to go out and destroy people, is because the elite always have felt that there are too many people on this planet. Well, cities are a new thing. It's a new concept, these cities, I mean, we used to be spread out a hell of a lot more. Even within the past 100 years, okay? So I don't personally believe there's an overpopulation problem at all. I believe that there is plenty of room for everybody. The problem is that the system is evil, that has tried to basically herd the human race into cities. That's what I consider cities, are human herding systems, basically. And they don't want you to be spread out on your own little land out in the middle of nowhere. You know, they don't want you to have your own little farmland or whatever. They don't want you to know that, you know, you can have every single human body on this planet alive right now, and you can stick it in the size of state of Texas and still have all the rest of the planet to utilize. You know, that is the truth of all of this. There's also other aspects of this. We have the ocean, and we have space. You know, they're preventing us from going into these places, from, you know, colonizing, essentially. They want to create a problem so where you're so frustrated that you yourself will hate the population. When you're sitting in traffic and you're like, God, all these people everywhere, I hate them all, like, they're everywhere, you know. They want you to hate the population itself, you know. But if you're feeling that way, I suggest take a drive across the country, and when you start to see that there's nobody out there, there's like vast lands of vast lands where there's nobody out there. Okay, so the overpopulation thing is a lie. It's a myth, and is put there to you know, basically get everybody to hate each other. They want you to hate each other, you know, because that creates more chaos, you know. But, you know, it's this whole structure that they've been creating, and it is a structure that they've been working on. That they are literally standing in a room trying to decide for what the whole entire world is going to be created upon. And they've been doing this for over 100 years. And if you want to see a film that describes this well, look up Century of Self by the BBC. You know, and I know the BBC is not a great company by any means, but they actually put this film out that explained basically all the eugenics and all these things that they've been doing to us. They admitted it. And so, like,
it's a pretty good documentary.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ian Curtis put it out, and he's not the best anymore. His documentaries suck these days, but his early ones are pretty good. That one, Century of Self, explains pretty well of what they were trying to do early on, you know, with the population of the world, pretty much. And so, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that they're trying to do as far as the population goes. Like, they want to they're trying to turn us into another being, pretty much, with all this eugenics, you know, all the stuff that they put in the products and the plastics and the waters and the air and all this sort of stuff. So I as a Gnostic, I look at this in a modern context, and I try to apply it in an ancient kind of way, the same ancient ways that have been applied forever, you know, for the past few thousands of years. It's just it's interesting to me, this Gnostic thing, because as soon as the FBI was formed, or the CIA, I think it was the CIA, as soon as the CIA was formed was the same year that the Nag Hammadi library was found. You know, so as we had these things of knowledge coming into our world, in our history, you can pinpoint when they started to recognize when things were starting to awaken. And so they put in these sort of mechanisms to try to prevent it, like the CIA or the FBI. I don't know. I see these things coming together as one.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I never knew that the same year the library was found, the Nag Hammadi, that the CIA was founded. That's interesting.
Well, I mean,
yeah, no, and they
1947, July 1947. Actually, it was the Dead Sea Scrolls when that one came out.
Oh, gotcha.
Those came out, and then the CIA was started, and then that's when like all these scriptures were being found. Nagamati, whatnot, And so I look at that and I'm like, they probably saw something, because they don't want this to come out. They don't want these ancient, rebellious scriptures to come out. I mean, because that's what Gnosticism pretty much is. It's basically the rebellion against the order, the rulers,
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Sometimes I wonder if it's one Gnostic group in charge or one race. Why did they name us races? Is it really a race?
Yeah.
The human races to the end. And right now, that's kind of what they're doing. With these programs, the eugenics and the vaccines or whatever, and the chemtrails. There's definitely something going on. And what piqued my interest with what you said is that they're trying to create a new being. What do you think they're trying to create or do to us?
Well, they don't want one that thinks, a being that thinks. They don't want one that rebels. They don't want one that whatever. They want one that works. They want a being that is a slave, They want it. They want a hybrid being to where that being will not be able to rebel against them ever. So
they would have to, of course, take the aggressiveness out of us.
So that's when you have these things like, how can I say this? You have a New Age movement out there that's saying that get rid of your ego, don't say the word warrior because that's bad, and these sort of things, these sort of PC, politically correct things are out there, And so I see these things that are trying to prevent people from being natural in all this, and to try to prevent becoming them true selves. Because
let's talk a little bit about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead on your thought. I'll get back to mine.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to touch on ego because that's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. What you said is we need to have our ego, and I think the key here, of course, the New Age movement, you're not supposed to have any ego or any aggressiveness or any kind of connect to spirit or anger or whatever. And if you actually study the true teachings of alchemy and being in touch with your soul and your body, it's managing your anger and knowing when to use it
exactly.
and knowing when to use that ego. So that's what I understand with ego. It's something that we manage and we control, and we don't let it control us, but it's essential in being, of course, a Gnostic and a human. So what's your thoughts on that as far as the ego and the spirit, that it needs to be managed and controlled?
Well, it's just been this trend lately that people have been saying, you need to get rid of your ego totally, and I'm like, I don't agree with that. I think there's great purpose within this body, this amazing body that you have, and the ego is a part of it. And it is there to get us through this matrix of survival, essentially, Now, yes, it can be, it can go out of hand. It is something that needs to be understood. But do we throw it away? I don't think so. I think it's an understanding thing. I also think it's a fearing thing. People fear the ego. They don't understand it. And when people fear something, they want to destroy it, or they want to kill it, and they want to get rid of it. And I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, and that's I feel it's propaganda out by whatever the powers that be, and a lot of it you do see, nothing against New Agers or people that might be into that movement, because there's a lot of teachings that I feel are Gnostic, and they're kind of just a different spin, and they're put into that movement. But that the ego is
dualism
important.
Thing. New Agers do not like the dualism perspective of Gnosticism, and if you bring that in, they hate that.
Yeah, dualism. My understanding, Gnosticism is somewhat new to me, just the last couple of years, but I feel like I've been a Gnostic all my life. I just didn't come across it. But that the dualism is that we're dual beings, is that we're of course, that energy which you had spoken of, that soul that incarnates into this matter, which would be this life. And, I think what you had said before is you believe in we have several lives, and that we're dual people. We're a soul incarnated into material reality, so we have to be dual. We have to be masters of duality, right?
Yeah, well, we're in this three-dimensional reality, so we're in this, and we have to deal with it. That's kind of where I'm coming from. It's like we're here, we have to deal with it. Now, maybe one day I might be ascended to the fifth dimension or whatever, and then I can speak about not having ego and these things. But what I try to emphasize in the here and now is the here and now. Like what I am now is a human being, and so I try to just put that out there. Like let's try to embrace this dualism. Like, and I felt like a lot of the New Age out there is trying to destroy that. Like, and I feel like that dualism is a truth of this three-dimensional reality, and so that's where I am on that. Because I see darkness and light, like we have daily experiences in our own life of light and darkness. That's dualism. Well, I mean, if the powers that be had their way and everything, turned into what they wanted, then they probably have this world that would be a lot less people and would just have like a split-off race that they created that just had the inability to create, to think, almost a android type of person. But I think there's something about an organic being that gives a little bit more than an android would, so that's probably why they would want a organic type of person, but they probably would mix it with Borg anyway. So,
well, what's interesting to me is that that here we are. I think you have the same belief as I do, is in reincarnation. We have multiple lives that were to evolve and eventually ascend, and that we never have to reincarnate back here on Earth. But don't these powers that be, don't they think that they're just going to keep reincarnating as presidents or as these scientists that are doing these things to us? Don't they understand that they're going to reincarnate as a slave and as a citizen themselves, having these things done to them, or they just keep reincarnating as presidents and kings? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, man, yeah, I could probably go many ways on that. It does seem like there is sort of a favoritism towards keeping those that are in these sort of bloodlines and these kings and queens and all these groups of elites together, But I've always, well, see, there's so much speculation here. This could be a conversation about reincarnation in itself. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like they all kind of stick together, and they're kind of protected in that way. Now that might be where this sort of Archon thing comes in hand, where it wants these sort of energies in one corner, so it keeps it pushed over there. Like it might even think of us just like energy, where it just kind of pushes us to certain sides and whatnot. And anyway, but these. When we come into this world, I think our purpose is to continuously grow our soul, I guess, to just keep it growing and going towards that enlightenment, towards ascension and all that sort of good stuff, And being true potential human beings, we don't really even know what that means, because this game or whatever has been going on for a very long time. Even though right now we seem to be dealing with a modern type of technological kind of scenario, this has been going on for quite some time now. This kind of idea to prevent mankind from becoming his true potential. So there's this great fear in this, whatever this is, preventing us from letting us become that true potential. But the Gnostics in this, we're striving for that, trying to cut through this, trying to find ways with how to make it through this, in this, even living in this, how to find ways to do that. So it just seems like there's this dance going on, So where's it all leading? It's really kind of like all up in the air, and it's hard to say. And I think that's the beauty in it, because I don't think there is a definite future in all this. I think it's all like...
It's up to us?
Yeah, it's up to us, and it's in our hands still, Even though it seems like it's all doom and gloomy right now, that's just a good sign that there's even more light in this world than there's ever been before. It's just maybe that if you don't see that, then maybe you're looking into darkness too much, that you're not seeing the light. So maybe look into things on how to better yourself, your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, all these things while we're in this matrix, trying to work on yourself and improve oneself. I think that's a big part of this too. And when you do that while you're cutting through the matrix, going through this, labyrinth and all this, then you can still make it, I think. And so when you're doing that, you're doing the opposite of what they want. They want somebody that's just totally plugged into the system, that goes along and gets along and doesn't ever care to be themselves, and they actually become afraid of that thought a lot of times. And a lot of people are afraid of themselves in that, and in all this.
I think that's, I want to expand on that a little bit, John, because I think it's really important, and I know we're coming to the end of our hour here, and I appreciate your time, but that, that we don't always plug into that fear, because when you study truth, and you said it gets dark. You get into that rabbit hole, and there's a lot of dark and ugly things that you see, and it's important that you get out of that rabbit hole and you work on thyself, and from the eating right to the exercising to seeing beautiful things that are, maybe not connected to the internet or not dealing with those truth and those horrors that are part of our everyday lives, that there's beauty out there and that we need to focus on the beauty as well to have balance.
Absolutely.
And that's when... Yeah, and that's kind of my idea. You said warrior a lot, and I like that because, I believe you as a warrior, John. You're a Gnostic, but we're Gnostic warriors too. Cosmic Gnostic is your trip, and I know you have a new venture coming out that I want you to talk about too, because I think that's exciting. Or that's like a new warrior project to help other people out, and that's important that we do that, is where we work on ourselves, we work on our health, and those are tools in our shed, or kind of like our sword to go through the darkness and our lights as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, while I am doing CosmicGnostic.com, I am starting another endeavor called OpenedEyesDIY.com, and it's basically going to be a place that just offers solutions, kind of over the years doing my podcast and website. That's been the main cry for help almost from people around the world, is our solutions in all this. Like when I was getting into this too, listening to shows, you'd hear about interesting things, but there weren't any solutions to trying to turn this around, or even in one's own personal world to try to turn it around. So I thought, maybe create a website that offered these solutions. And I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe it'll expand to the point where other people can contribute around the world, sort of thing. But it's, it's something else to try to crack this open, to let the light flood into this world. I just want a great life, just like anybody else. I want to really experience this world for what it is. And like you were saying, Mo, definitely take yourself out of the rabbit hole and go out into the beauty of this world. If you have a forest or something around you, go to those places of nature. I've always found those places are empowering and kind of re-center yourself in this chaos as it's happening, So I love getting out of the rabbit hole as much as going in.
Yeah, no, I like that about you too, John. I'd mentioned in the last podcast that unfortunately was erased, and we talked about some cool things. I actually want to schedule a new podcast with you about that, about what you're finding out in South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
With that being a big Masonic state. But, it's cool. Like, I'm a friend of yours on Facebook, and you had mentioned you went out a couple weeks ago to see there was an organic farm nearby, and you got to see the guys there, and you could literally just get the food out of the ground and eat it, and it's cool to see that, because I was one of those guys that gets always stuck on the computer, and you kind of inspired me this weekend. We started our own little garden. I'm here in the city in Carlsbad. We're near the beach in San Diego, but there's no forest around us, and there's the beach, and that's about it as far as nature. Yeah, but it's beautiful, so we have that, but not that garden or that farm nearby. So we took it to our house. We started our own little garden. I should call it the Cosmic Gnostic Garden. But it's cool. We got it going. It's all organic soil, and the kids were doing it with myself, and we had a great time. And it even started raining on us. This was yesterday. And,
get your feet in the ground. It does wonders for you.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was raining. So it's definitely important that we do that, and we work on ourselves. And that's the life you're living, an artist, and with your new website that you're doing now, it's that new artistic trip, and it's a different thing from the Cosmic Gnostic, because that's just not you. There's other things that you're interested in, and you want to help people, and part of that is monetarily, because I know that we all need to earn money, and you want to share your skills that you're doing and you're designing, and give people DIY solutions that they could do themselves to do that. So I think that's going to be cool. Yeah. What are some of the things that are going to be on the website, or what's going to be your main focus on It's OpenYourEyesDIY.com?
It's OpenEyesDIY.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And
all right, so what's the main focus you're going to do?
Well, it's basically just let's say, for instance, you want to have your house without fluoridation, okay? So there would be tips on how to defluoride your water system, but it wouldn't be in an expensive sense. There's very expensive means of going about all this, but I want to go about this in an affordable sense, because the majority of the people out there can't afford to break off the matrix the way that we would like to. So, like you have these filtration systems that, cost from like a few $100s to thousands of dollars, But if you had like something that you could start off with, just to be able to take the chemicals out of your water just on your own supply, like you could do that for, like $60 or so, So these, cheaper, affordable methods would be put out there. But it would also be to encourage people to go to their local organic farms, to go pick from them from the ground, to, get food from their local farmers markets and that sort of thing as well. So it's going to be a plethora of just many different things, everything from like even clothing, like getting clothing that are good for children, that don't have chemicals in the clothing, that, or even like makeup for women, that that they can have organic makeup that hasn't been tested on animals, that is still good, it still looks good, and it's still not destroying the earth and your bodies, So it's like it's going to be a website that just has like all that kind of stuff in it. CosmicGnostic.com already sort of has that, but there's too much esoteric kind of weirdness, supernatural stuff going on in that website. So my attempt here is to kind of like pull out trying to be so weird and just try to be more straightforward for just anybody that is out there that just wants to find it, that has that are looking to learn how to do something themselves. Maybe they'll find it, and maybe they'll find it useful. So
no, I think, John, I think that's a great idea, brother, that you're going to put that all on one website, because there, like you said, there's several, there's things out there where you could find information, but I don't know of one website where you could find everything that you're talking about. And I know what you're talking about, the weird esoteric stuff, because my sister, I think she just recently defamilied me because of the stuff I talk about on Gnostic Warrior. Yeah. So
they'll come around.
Yeah, and she just didn't put me as her family. I'm still her on her Facebook as a friend, though,
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying as far as separating things, and people could focus maybe on just that DIY stuff, and they don't have to be a Gnostic or into the esoteric. And if they saw it, some people might be turned off by it. So it's better to keep it separate. That's a smart. That's being dual. That's being the dual John, the duality, and putting yourself into the kind of the commerce, normal Joe market, and going, hey, I got to separate this if I want this to be a success, because it could be a success on Cosmic Gnostic, but much more of a success on its own domain. It's going to be more work, but I'm saying as myself, because I do the same things as you, John, is it's better to keep them separate if you can, and have it's just more work, but if you do it, it'll work out. And I think it's a great idea with your new website. All right, awesome, John. I really appreciate your time that you've taken with me. And again, this is podcast number 2. We have about 11 minutes of that other one that I'm going to try to blend in with this one, because there was some great things that we talked about in that podcast that was really different from this one. And it's another conversation, I feel, with a new friend, John in South Carolina. Great things that you're sharing with people and your philosophy on life, brother. You're 100% original, and dude, that is hard to find in this world. And please keep up the great work on Cosmic Gnostic. Good luck on your new website. I think that's going to be a great success. And anything you want to end the show with? Where's John going from here? And anything to give to our audience?
Well, I appreciate everybody for taking the time out of their day to listening to me. And Mo, thank you for what you do with your GnosticWarrior.com endeavor as well. And it's a great thing to be able to do this, to be able to reach out and meet other people, to spread the light as much as we can. So it's all in fun. And the last thing I wanted to say is that have fun in all this. People try to make this too serious when it's supposed to be a lot of fun. Even at all that dark stuff, you can have fun with it and not make it to be ruling of your own life. Because sometimes going into that darkness, it can create new Archons that will rule you in your own minds. So you got to learn how to play around in this matrix, and it is a sort of a feat to do that. But persistence in this will grant you fruits. And thank you, Mo, again, and thank you everybody for listening. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. I love that you ended with that, and having a good attitude and smiling and laughing and sometimes making fun of the Archons and the BS out there while we go through the rabbit hole. Some great stuff, John. And if you want to find John Kale, CosmicGnostic.com is his website, and OpenedEyesDIY.com, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I get that right. It's hard, so audience, to maintain your thoughts and remember things as you're going through, and then you try to write down questions. And I know, even being a guest on a show, it's hard, because you'll formulate your thoughts, and then you'll try to remember other things like a website, and sometimes it gets kind of jargled up in jargon. But we're doing our best we can. We gotta laugh at things, even our mistakes. A lot of these podcasts, even some of these little mistakes that we make, I just leave them on there, because no one's perfect. Let's just have a good time. And John, until next time, take care, brother.
Take care.
All right, bye.
All right.